We're talking about Rouge One. I mean, Rogue One.
It's the French version of Star Wars. Oui, oui.
That is probably my biggest problem with this movie, is that the internet doesn't know how to spell Rogue One. Back when this came out, everybody was saying Rouge One because they didn't know how to spell Rogue.
Where's your ability to order letters in the alphabet, people? It's G-U, not U-G.
Where's your other dirtbag?
You're an absolute disgrace. Yes, guys. You'll notice that Jared is not in this video because he decided to screw us over and go on vacation. When he watches this video, he'll realize how much fun he missed. I mean, he's totally, you know, he got the short end of the stick by going out in the middle of the ocean on a cruise ship, so no big deal.
It's a real short end of the stick there. That he's in a tropical paradise on a cruise where he can eat whatever he wants and swim and do fun things, and we have to be here and work.
Coming to bed, honey?
Yes, dear.
The premise of Rogue One is that the Empire is building the Death Star, and the rebels don't know how to destroy it.
Obviously, there's more to it there with the main character, Jyn Erso. Her father, Galen Erso, was one of the chief engineers on the Death Star, played by Mads Mikkelsen. And he, being someone who's been jaded with the Empire, decides to, you know, create the weakness that we all knew was in, you know, A New Hope, when that they exploited and they were able to destroy the Death Star. He was the one that actually came up with that, and we'll probably touch on that later.
I'm kind of torn between Rogue One because I really like it. It's a good movie, but it also was a rewrite and wrote out one of my favorite Star Wars characters ever. Originally, when the Death Star plans were being found, they were stolen by Kyle Katarn.
Oh, yeah.
Because he broke into the base, which on what planet I forget. This was like his first mission as a rebel operative, was stealing the Death Star plans. Anyway, he's no more now.
Well, you can still play the video games
Yeah.
that, even though it's not canon, I guess.
But Rogue One is pretty good. The cast is spectacular. There's like a bunch of people. Forrest Whitaker is in it.
Well, his performance, but like, good actor.
Yes, he's good. I like Forrest Whitaker and his creepy, old rebel, more machine than man guy.
He's almost like the anti-Death Darth Vader in a way, where
Yes.
like he's more machine than man, but he fights for the rebel cause,
Yeah.
kind of.
He has a cool line though. When he's like about to die, he's like, "Save the rebellion, save the dream." I really like that line, but that's like one of the only good lines that he has. He's really intimidating though. Like if he was, it looked like he was going for an intimidating role, and he definitely pulled off the intimidating, I'm the more machine than man look.
Other members of the cast, we have, of course, Felicity Jones as Jyn Erso, Alan Tudyk as K2SO,
Which he's spectacular. He had me dying the whole movie long.
Did you know that wasn't me?
The best one though is when he's telling him, "Do you know the odds that she'll use that blaster against us?" "Not now, Kate. It's high. It's very high." He just has like a bunch of one-liners that are amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's awesome. Congratulations, you are being rescued.
Please do not resist.
Oh, also he's like, when he's like, you're making an awful lot of noise there was an awful lot of explosions for two people who were trying to blend in.
Freeze! Right there! You're right. I should just wait on the ship.
Donnie Yen as Blind
yes.
Chirrut is amazing. Awesome.
I wish there could have been more opportunities to know more about his character, because, you can obviously tell that out of most of the characters in the story, he has more personality than most of them. I mean, that could just be because he has a strong physical presence on screen, and like he brings that in all of his fight scenes, like especially that first one where it's like, oh, this blind guy, he's got skills.
Which his like buddy base is just the perfect, like they're like a buddy, they're like two buddies, and they're the guardians of the wills, guarding the Kuiper crystals, but since the Empire took all of them away, they really don't have anything to do. So his buddy, when Chirrut is about to get shot, he shoots around him. It's like, "You almost shot me." but I didn't.
Diego Luna is also one of the best parts of this movie. I think mostly because, you know, and this is kind of surface level, like, development of his character, but he's someone that shows that the rebellion definitely did things that were a bit messy and dirty that they had to do in order to accomplish their end goal, which made his character interesting. You know, you never really knew what exact ground he stood for the first 2 acts of the movie, although, again, like, you know, it's mostly surface level character development, but enough to serve the story, I think.
Right. The story flows pretty well as far as when it starts to where the first act ends, when they get the mission that they need to go to Edu. From there, well, when they arrive on Jeddah, from Jeddah to Edu, and then from Edu to Scarif. Like, the whole story itself is pretty well thought out. There's no corny dialogue. Everybody's pretty well written, I guess. Because at least when I was watching it, I was entertained like the whole movie. It's a Star Wars movie. It made me feel like I was watching, or like when I was playing with Star Wars figures when I was little. It made me feel like I was watching like New Hope and enjoying it. It was really fun. Like when we watched some of the other ones, it was like, okay, yeah, this is a Star Wars movie because this reminds me of that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just because it had Star Wars in the name, it had some Star Wars stuff. I guess it was a lot easier for me to believe that this was a Star Wars story, if that makes sense.
Is it mostly just because of how it like connects to the other movies, or is it? What do you think?
I think it's because it didn't focus so much on Jedi stuff. Like there aren't any. Well, besides maybe the end, because that part's awesome.
Well,
but, like,
we'll get there.
The most of this movie is just rebel troopers versus stormtroopers, rebellion versus empire. There wasn't any hokey religions or ancient weapons. It was just, I don't know. I enjoyed it. It reminded me of Star Wars. Because in the first one, they didn't really have Jedis in that one. They just flew ships around and got the Death Star plans and all that.
It definitely isn't bogged down by a bunch of lore that they're trying to set up. I've had my issues with the pacing of this movie since it came out, and I still kind of get thrown off a bit in the first 10 minutes where literally you're going from one planet to the other, and like, it's like name drop for a planet, and then 30 seconds later, name drop another one.
Yeah.
And there's like so much stuff going on while they're trying to set up the story, but, you know, I otherwise agree, like it has a pretty good flow to it, and it tells a very straightforward story.
Right.
That, you know, anyone who isn't really familiar all that much with Star Wars can get into. It exists in the universe, but it's not caught up in so much of the fantasy stuff.
Yeah.
It really is just kind of a war film that happens to exist in this universe.
Which I really appreciate about it, because it feels like there's a darker tone in this one. Mm-hmm. Just from, like, when you first meet Cassian, and he meets the guy on the trading planet, and he's like, shh, it'll be alright, and then he shoots him. Like, you already know it's going to be a darker movie. At least to me. It's really gritty, especially when they get to Scarif, and they're like,
oh yeah,
we're going to strike at different landing pads, and blah, blah, blah.
Are we blind? Deploy the garrison! The memes.
Speaking of casting, Ben Mendelsohn is a really good bad guy. And another thing about the casting, the people that they got to do like Mon Mothma,
oh yeah,
looks exactly the same as the lady that was in Return of the Jedi almost.
Yeah.
Almost identical, which I don't even know where they found that lady. And I apologize because I don't know her name. But she looks just like Mon Mothma in Return of the Jedi. There's the part with Leia and the part with Tarkin, which I really liked Tarkin, because he seemed along the same line. And was it his son that did the motion capture?
I have no idea. Yeah.
It was somebody that was related to Peter Cushing. I can't remember if it was his son or grandson or something. But they did it to where they CGI'd Peter Cushing's face on whoever did it. And it doesn't look half bad. I mean, you can tell it's CGI, but
it's still in Uncanny Valley, but yeah.
It's not as bad. The Princess Leia one is... it's not that great.
Well, that one's just a bit more unfortunate because, you know, this movie came out like 2 weeks before she passed away.
Yeah.
And so, and so I think that one sticks out to us more now because Carrie Fisher's death is more fresh on our minds, whereas Peter Cushing, it's like, oh, that's an actor that's been like dead for years. Yeah. I think his is a bit more bearable because Peter Cushing, at least Peter Cushing, is in the darkly lit rooms more often.
That's
when
true, actually.
when Princess Leia turns around and she has that moment where she says "Hope" on the cockpit of Tantive 4.
Yeah.
The whole entire room is lit white, just like Princess Leia's robe is.
Yeah. On her face.
Yeah, and so I think her details stand out a bit more. But Peter Cushing, even though obviously you can still tell it's CGI, like you said, I think his effects blend in more with his environment because in the Death Star, it's already kind of dimly lit to begin with, but they're in space, and so I don't know, I think his aesthetic works more with that specific set and what they're going with there.
Yeah, I appreciate the amount of effort that they put in, though, to have those two characters. Honestly, I didn't even think about it until after the movie, but I was like, they would have existed in that universe.
Absolutely.
And Tarkin's a huge player at that point, as far as controlling the Death Star. So he would have had to have been in this movie, and I kind of appreciate the amount of effort and kind of the amount of courage that they took to, do this.
It was a risk for sure.
Yeah. I liked it, though. It didn't really bog me down, as I know some people, I think, it bogged down for them, but I thought it was good.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a lot better than the Tron Legacy effects when they tried to make young Jeff Bridges in that one.
Yeah, that one didn't work as well.
You touched on something that I wanted to go into a little bit more too, about how this movie feels darker than other Star Wars movies, and it definitely is true. Although I think director Gareth Edwards, who I'm going to praise a lot in this video, I think what I can credit him for is making the darker aesthetic feel natural and not really bog down the rest of the movie.
Like Solo?
Oh, actually, yeah, I was about to bring that up because, both Solo and Rogue One take place in the, quote, darker periods of the Star Wars timeline, where the Jedi are pretty much all extinct, the Empire's running rampant across the galaxy. You're either living kind of like on your own, away from civilization, or you're basically a smuggler or something.
That's fair.
You basically have three choices, be Empire or those other two situations. And so, with Solo, I feel like they applied such a deeply dark and unsaturated color palette to that movie to emphasize, this is the dark time of the Star Wars timeline, guys.
Yeah.
But with this movie, even though it still has that, I think Gareth Edwards was wise to not have that pervade his visuals.
Yeah. Because
it gets the point across, but at the same time, it still makes the movie look good.
I think that as far as the environments and stuff, they feel lived in, if that makes sense.
Yes.
When you're on Jeddah, stuff isn't pristine. It's dirty. Not everybody's dirty, but stuff feels lived in. The Jeddah city feels like it's lived in populated by a dense number of people. When you're walking down the street and you see all the different, people cooking stuff and all the different little holograms of things that are going on. Or when you get into the prison that Jyn Erso is in at the beginning, and you see the stormtrooper who's supposed to guard, and he's all dirty because he doesn't have to keep clean because he's not being inspected by people. He's on a prison planet, so he doesn't have to keep his armor shiny and clean. It gets dirty from him using it all the time. Or when you get into Saw Gerrera's place and you see the little holograms, and they have a game board and they have seats, and everybody has a spot, and they all look grouchy and stuff. The universe just kind of all the environments feel lived in, and I kind of like that because sometimes in Star Wars you get so hooked on we got to make the environment look clean and futuristic and stuff, and I feel like the prequels did that a lot.
Oh, they did.
And this one, because they went out of the way to make it realistic. It feels like the world is lived in, if that makes sense. So I really appreciated that about all the characters and the costumes and just everything about it was good. As far as environment goes, there's some other things that weren't as good, but they were still good.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen Gareth Edwards' other movie, the 2014 Godzilla?
No, but I did not know he made that one.
Yeah, he made that one obviously before Rogue One, and I was hoping maybe you'd seen it because this kind of relates to what some points I want to make about his direction of this movie, but One thing that I love that he does with this movie and Godzilla is, even if maybe like the movies don't have a whole ton of emotional impact, what they can at least give you are action sequences that feel intense. They're not just, cool, flashy things that you can watch on the screen and maybe have some fun with. With this and with Godzilla, you have the AT-ATs and you have all these kaijus that are imposing. Like they're huge and they feel huge on the screen. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's depth to his images, and there's also you get so frequently the perspective of the humans looking at these things.
Yeah.
Like the rebels on the beach looking up at the AT-ATs.
That part is a really good scene.
Yeah. Not only the CGI is great, but you feel these towers of metal are just walking towards them and are going to destroy them. In Godzilla, you have that same thing where maybe you don't have a lot of Godzilla fights, but the fights that are there, they feel intense because they've established that these monsters are behemoths and they're titans, and every single punch that they make is going to level buildings. And you feel that because you feel that from the perspectives of the humans on the ground as they're looking up at them. And yeah, they establish the stakes of what's going on.
One thing that came to my mind while you were saying that, as far as visuals goes, the VFX for this movie, on point. Way to go, ILM, for making freaking realistic CGI models of stuff. The Star Destroyers in this movie, the Death Star, you can't really, it's a big planet. It looks real, but the Star Destroyers and the X-Wings and the cruisers and stuff like that look amazing. They all look really good. You can tell that anybody who worked on this took every detail to shade every little pixel that's on the screen, because it looks phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely.
It does. It looks just amazing.
We talk so much about blockbusters that have bad CGI nowadays that won't hold up. I think Rogue One's going to stand the test of time.
I think it will too. It looks amazing. It really looks like they made the models again. Honestly, remember how in Star Wars they had everything that was a model?
Yeah.
Pretty much. They couldn't do CGI.
They were all models. And for the laser effects, they literally painted those onto the film.
Stuff like that where you're like, jeez, that looks like the Star Destroyer could literally just come out of space and land on Earth, if that makes sense. It looks, all of it looks real and amazing and awesome. And I appreciate the painstaking efforts that everybody took to make this film look so good, because it really, you can tell if you compared this to Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones look like they downloaded the whole movie off the internet. This one feels like they built sets and they made everything look like it should in a movie theater, or in real life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
In real life.
No,
that's good.
For sure. One of my favorite shots in the whole entire battle is Scarif, the space battle anyway, which, good stuff.
That's good.
Good stuff. One of my favorite shots is when the X-Wings do their little attack run on the shield generator thing.
Yeah.
And as they're making their approach, there's an overhead shot where you see the X-Wings doing this pass. There's the X-Wings and then there's the shield generator, and then beneath it is the planet Scarif. I love how in this movie they make the visuals feel real. Something tangible that we can relate to.
Right.
It almost looked like if an astronaut was floating there in the middle of space and was looking down at Earth and you could see the space shuttle. It was that same kind of setup, but instead it's, you're looking down at the rebellion fighting the Empire, and there's something very tactile and realistic, like you said there.
This movie did suffer from the Disney reshoots, though.
Yeah.
That was one thing that I noticed, because the first trailer... So when I was going to watch this, I watched the whole movie yesterday. But before I did, I went to look at all the trailers. In the first trailer, doesn't show any Darth Vader. Shows the first trailer. The second one does? Yeah, the second one does. What's the third one? I can't remember. But I remember that there was a definite, trailer, we're going to show Darth Vader. And that's when, they reshot a bunch of stuff to add Darth Vader into it. which I don't really mind because Darth Vader also was alive at that point.
It makes sense.
But he's not used to the point where he takes over the whole story, if that makes sense. Like, Ben Mendelsohn's evil character, Director Krennic, is still allowed his, like, oh, I'm Director Krennic and I'm the bad guy of this movie, if that makes sense. He's not overshadowed by Darth Vader or really Grand Moff Tarkin, to be honest. I mean, Tarkin has his moments of the movie where he talks, but he's not overplaying it, if that makes sense. And Darth Vader isn't. He's in it enough to where you're like, okay, Darth Vader lived and he's cool and everything. But when they did the hallway scene, that's probably like the best, like, I don't know how long it is, minute and a half.
Yeah, it tops.
It's not long, but it is
It sticks with you.
amazing. When I was in the movie theater watching this for the first time, they're like, we got the Death Star Plus, we need to get out of here, hurry. And the door's stuck, and you hear the, like you hear metal bending, and all of them just stop, and you can see like, oh, they know something's up, and they turn around, and the end of the hallway's completely dark, and then you hear Vader's. You're like, oh, what? Spectacular, outstanding. It is one of the best shots in all of Star Wars. And they're like, open fire! And like Darth Vader kills all of them, and you're just like, oh, he's so awesome
And attractive.
Yeah. Very glad that they went and reshot that, because that part is so cool.
Yeah, and what amazes me about it too, going back to your the reshoot comment you made, that scene was literally an afterthought. Like, they pretty much shot the whole entire movie and almost edited the whole thing. And then maybe like 2 or 3 months before release, Gareth Edwards or someone came up with this idea, and they pitched it to Kathleen Kennedy, and she's like, shoot it. And I love it now. Like,
it's like an integral part of the movie now. Honestly, it's so awesome.
And obviously it's fan service.
It really is.
Obvious.
But it's the best kind of fun. It's like the best kind of fan service ever.
Yeah, because it's not that kind of thing where like the movie just halts to reference something and it feels awkward. Like it's this amazing thing that caps off your whole entire experience and leaves you on like an emotional high note.
It's like when Cap lifted Mjolnir in Endgame.
Yeah, exactly like that.
It's like, that didn't need to happen for that movie to end well. It really didn't. But the fact that it happened made the movie so much cooler. Like, when he's running up to Thanos, he's gonna hit him with the hammer, he's like, and hits Thanos, uppercuts him. Like, that part's so cool. And it's like one of the highlights of the whole movie. This part is like one of the highlights of the whole movie because it's just awesome.
Yeah, and it's amazing how like a 30-second clip can be that, Last year when Solo came out, I did a list on my blog before I did my channel of the top 10 Star Wars action scenes. This was number 4, solely because of how like amazingly filmed and edited it was. Yeah. And the thing I said is like it transformed Star Wars into a horror movie at that point.
Yes, it did, because it's all of them. Like when they hear the metal bend, if you watch it, when you hear the metal bend, all the 7 troopers in there stop. They immediately freeze up. You can hear all the hair on the back of their head stand up, and they're like, uh-oh. And you hear the breathing, and all of them get super freaked out, and then it's like, open fire! Even though they know they're gonna die.
Mm-hmm. And with Michael Giacchino's amazing music.
Yeah.
And, like, it's like a foreboding choir that's just in the background hailing the arrival of this demon that's gonna kill them all. I mean, seriously, like, he's a monster in that scene. And, like, he mows them all down without any effort. He's like, whatever, I'll just... And he pretty much never stops. He just keeps on walking.
The guy... when I watched this, I was like, okay, guy, you need to hand it... The guy that's trying to open the door, you need to take the Death Star plans and you need to leave now. You need to get out of there. And he was like, oh!
You better run.
And then, like, right as Darth Vader's on top of him, he's like, here, take it! He's like, ah! It's like right at the last second, he's like, take it. It's like, dude, come on. You gotta like think of that earlier. This is Darth Vader. I don't know. It's funny.
Also, you should look into reaction videos of this scene because after this movie came out and it was released on Blu-ray and stuff, there was this amazing reaction that I saw on YouTube where it was like this girl who returned from her home from her mission and watched Rogue One, like and words cannot describe how amazingly nerdy and just hilarious it is.
It's really funny. I actually know what you're talking about. It's really funny.
It's good stuff.
You need to watch it.
I'm not normally a fan of reaction videos, but that one is money. Are there any other points we want to touch on before we close up?
No. I mean, this movie is like right up leading up to the Star Wars A New Hope. So, I mean, the amount of effort that they went into is really just like a love letter to that movie. We were talking earlier about how you said it was like part one of New Hope. It really is, because it sets up, New Hope starts right after that. They come out of hyperspace over Tatooine.
Yep, exactly.
It just sets it up beautifully, which makes it even funnier when Leia comes in and she's like, I'm on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan. And Darth Vader's like, no, you're not.
It's like, no, you're not, woman. I literally saw your dude with the Death Star plans dive into your ship.
Dive into your ship and I watched you fly away.
Don't give me that BS.
Don't pretend like you're on a diplomatic... What is it?
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby! Don't you put that on us!
What does he say? You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take her away! It just makes that scene so much funnier. Like, it's not... That part's not supposed to be funny, but because of this movie, I'm always like...
Yeah, it makes it better. Well, another thing that makes better, too, about A New Hope is, like... You know, people have commented for so many years about how, like, it's so dumb that the Death Star would just have this incredibly minute weakness.
Oh, yeah.
But then this movie explains it, but in a way that improves A New Hope and actually
justifies why there's a thermal exhaust port.
It justifies it and gives, like, more emotional reasons to care about it.
Yeah.
And you also realize more of the sacrifices that went into, the Death Star being blown up. So,
Speaking of which, one last thing. When this movie came out, one of my buddies and I were hanging out. We just saw it, so we were talking about it. He's like, dude, this movie is my favorite. And I was like, what? Because, like, it was good, but it's not Star Wars or Empire Strikes Back. But, like, he was like, it gave me one thing that I've always wanted to know about Star Wars. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I always wanted to know what would happen if I were on a planet when the Death Star blew up the planet. And twice in this movie, meaning they don't blow up the whole planet, but it's whatever they call it, single reactor ignition.
Yeah.
Where the Death Star shoots on the planet and blows something up. Which I thought the perspective, goes back to your perspective, human perspective. I really like that perspective of boom. And then you're like, oh no.
That's a good point, yeah.
Oh no. Oh no!
Oh, and it also made for an amazing joke that I totally forgot was in the movie until I rewatched it again recently. After the single reactor ignition destroys Jeddah City, which is a sad moment.
Yeah.
But, like, after that happens and basically the whole entire planet is being upheaved on itself.
Yeah.
K2SO is looking out the windshield of the U-Wing, and he says, there's a problem on the horizon. There's no horizon.
I forgot about that. Rewatching this movie, there's so many memes that I had forgotten about that made me laugh all over again because I had forgotten them. Deploy the garrison!
You stand here against my achievement, not yours!
Ben Mendelsohn's line in these movies are amazing. Because they're so pompous and annoying, but they're also really funny. When he says them, you stand here against my achievement, not yours!
He's obviously chewing the scenery, but for the role that he has, I don't freaking care.
I love Ben Mendelsohn. He's amazing. He's a good bad guy.
Yeah.
Which made Captain Marvel kind of weird because he was a good guy.
He was one of those fake out bad guys that Disney movies have. It's like, oh, you think I'm the bad guy? Turns out it's this dude.
Just kidding, look, it's him!
It's the prince guy from Frozen. Yay! I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, it is. It is.
In summation,
This movie's great.
yeah, for me, like, I enjoy it. There are a lot of elements of the story that I feel were really predictable and played out and cliched. So, like, I can't say that I love it, but I think for what it does, like, visually, like, Gareth Edwards shows that he's a great visual director with this movie. And there are other things it does for the Star Wars lore that I think is enough to make me appreciate it. And also, compared to a lot of other Star Wars prequels, it has competent acting. It
Good
has
screenwriting.
good.
What?
Good screenwriting.
In a prequel?
And actually, like we talked about, visuals that will stand the test of time. So for me, I'll give it a B-, which is like, you know, decent on my scale just because of the storyline doesn't always work for me. But I enjoy watching it. Like, I think it's a good enough movie.
I think it's a 9. 9 for me. That'd be right around, probably. Anyway, I don't even know what your grading scale is. This is the.
Well, we weigh movies out differently.
I think it's a 9. I think it's awesome. The casting was great. The visuals are great. The story is really good. It is a little bit predictable towards the end. They don't ever show up in any of the other Star Wars movies, so they wouldn't have been able to stay alive, which makes me sad because there were some good characters that they killed off. But
yeah,
it's more or less just where we're at with them. I really liked it though. All the characters are good. I'm glad Cassian Andor is getting his own spin-off show though on Disney Plus.
That is cool.
Cool.
I'm intrigued to see that. That'll probably come out next year, won't it?
Something like that, yeah.
The last point you made about like the characters not being in other movies. That's why repeatedly when people ask my opinion on this movie, I tell them I think it's a Star Wars version of Halo Reach.
Yeah.
Because if you're familiar with the second half of that game and how that plays out, it's pretty much Rogue One is pretty much the second half of Rogue One's
Halo Reach.
Yeah, Halo Reach's campaign.
Oh man.
When you think about it.
That's my favorite Halo.
Well, it's a great Halo.
It's a great Halo. And Halo Reach is so sad. Oh man. Anyway.
But it leads immediately into a game where the enemy boards a ship and then the MacGuffin is taken down to a space station.
Stop. It's not the same.
And the space station is blown up in the end. Anyway, I'm going to stop blowing people's minds now.
Oh, man.
Anyway, thanks guys for watching another one of these roundtable reviews for Star Wars. We are halfway done. And next month we're going to be bringing you the top tier of the Star Wars movies. That'll be pretty good.
New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. The best 2 Star Wars movies ever.
Yes. Well, Empire Strikes Back will be in August, but yes.
Yes. They're the best.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Jared will be back because he'll hopefully have returned from his cruise by then.
We hope. We hope he can take it out of his busy cruise schedule to come and visit us here in Arizona.
Well, otherwise, if you like this content, please subscribe and hit that like button. It really does help me in terms of growing this content. And check out my Facebook, Letterboxd, and Instagram pages for more things that don't appear here on the channel. Thank you, Justin, for being here. And thank you for watching. Have a good one.
Bye.